The opening two tracks of the Ziggy Stardust album toe the line that Bowie drew in his previous album, portraying contemporary human existence as a desolate spiritual wasteland, leading towards decline. Moonage Daydream explodes into the scene to provide a solution, to revitalize the human spirit and bring happiness. So, what is the magical key to happiness, which could succeed where all religions and ideologies failed? Bowie's answer is rock and roll. It is hard for us to remember nowadays, when rock and roll is just another musical genre, what it once meant. But for many kids in the 50s and 60s, rock and roll was the essence of existence. Till there was rock, you only had God, sings Bowie in the Ziggy outtake Sweet Head, and at other times he referred to rock and roll as a substitute for the church. When you listen to early rock and roll stuff from the mid-50s, you can hear it. The feeling of pure release and euphoria that emanates from the records, the sheer ecstasy that is every bit as powerful as religious ecstasy. It sounds like the singer's soul has been trapped in a little bottle all his life, and now breaks loose and fills the entire world with joy, lifting its listeners right up with it. But the rock and roll kids have also learned something else. This joy doesn't last forever. The wonderful sensations contained in the mid-50s rock and roll records died towards the end of the decade, and the artists who originated them, like Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis Presley, etc., could no longer reproduce them. Then came the Beatles, who distilled this eruptive quality and brought it back, but that didn't last long either. Others who followed managed to reproduce it for a while, but by the end of the 60s, it felt like true rock and roll was becoming ever more scarce. After psychedelia, rock and roll became rock, music that searched for eternal truths instead of temporary joys, and so-called musical quality instead of ecstasy. But for some, this meant that the essence was lost, and they wanted to return to the fervor of early rock and roll. For those, the question now became, what is the secret ingredient that produces the rock and roll experience? That must have been how Bowie felt, too. In the first version of Moonage Daydream, released in 1971 as part of the Arnold Corns project, the lyrics presumed to resurrect the ecstatic quasi-religious rock and roll experience, but the record fails to live up to its presumption. It's not enough to just want it, you have to find the element that causes it. This, I contend, was the challenge that Bowie was trying to overcome when he created his Ziggy Stardust persona. By 1972, Bowie finally discovered the missing ingredient needed to produce a real rock and roll sensation, and got Moonage Daydream right. Moonage Daydream, in the Ziggy cut, bursts into the end of So Love, bringing back the eruptive power of rock and roll. And then come the four lines that try to break down the rock and roll phenomenon to its parts, and decipher its secrets. I'm an alligator. I said that true rock and roll sounds like the singer's soul has been trapped in a little bottle all his life, and now breaks loose and fills the entire world with joy, lifting its listeners right up with it. What it also brings on is a feeling of omnipotence, and in the late 60s, this was exhibited by rock singers proclaiming themselves to be some mythical, larger-than-life figure, which suddenly burst out of their former selves. I'm Jumping Jack Flash, I'm a voodoo child, I'm the Lizard King, etc. I'm an Alligator continues this line, detonating its way through the depressed figure we heard in the first two tracks, shedding it like dried skin to reappear in a shiny new guise. The actual image it chose, the alligator, is immaterial, and was probably chosen for the sake of rhyming. What is important here is that he is an alligator, someone who alleges to be something new. I'm a mama, papa coming for you. And this new identity, rock and roll history teaches us, is not particular to just one individual. Whenever rock and roll broke, whenever some rock and roll star assumed a new identity and broadcast it to the world, there were kids who identified with him, and felt that he was expressing what they felt inside. Through imitating him, they could liberate themselves from their false identity, and supplant it with an identity that felt real. Rock and roll is like being reborn, and the rock and roll star is the person performing this rebirth. The announcement, "I'm a mama papa coming for you," poses our rock and roll hero as a replacement for your parents, calling on any alienated kid to be reborn through identifying with him. But does any form of rebirth induce the feeling of freedom and happiness? Can you simply choose an arbitrary new identity, and the rock and roll ecstatic sensation will immediately follow? Certainly not. There must be some principle behind the new self you are adopting, which will ensure that it does indeed generate rock and roll. What is that principle?
I'm a space invader.
The third line provides the answer. Rock and roll is the space invader, the alien from another world. More accurately, it is something from your own world that behaves like an alien from another world. The artists who ignited the rock and roll experience were always those who combined the elements of their own culture's music with sounds that came from a musical logic that was alien to it, and were thus able to express a sensibility that their own musical language was previously unable to express. When white boys like Elvis Presley and Bill Haley inserted elements of black R&B into white pop and country, they did something that went completely against the logic of their culture, because for white America in the 50s, black culture symbolized the jungle, the thing that civilized persons should aspire to distance themselves from. So Elvis, a white boy singing R&B, was something completely paradoxical and alien to the logic of the time. But for some white kids who were alienated to that logic, and felt that R&B held some truths it failed to encompass, he was the first thing they could identify with. Similarly, when the Beatles combined English pop with American rock and roll, they blew away all preconceptions of how Englishmen should behave. And the same thing happened when the Rolling Stones conflated Chicago blues and Mercy Beat, or when Bob Dylan fused folk music with rock and roll. They all seemed at first like something that came from another world, something that was unheard of before. The rock and roll experience, then, happens when something that was previously banned from your culture finds a way to invade your cultural space, to present itself in a language that is understandable to you, and speak to something inside you that was always repressed. The rock and roll star is someone who comes from your world, yet is also alien to it. When you identify with him, you feel like your inside erupts and takes over, smashing your old identity. This also explains why the rock and roll sensation can be felt by many kids at once. It is not some individual real self that was locked inside and is set free. It is a shared sensibility, which is the result of cultural repression. The rock and roll star allows you to break the repression by identifying with him, and all those who do it feel the same liberation.
I'll be a rock and rollin' bitch for you.
So what does rock and roll do? First of all, it rocks you, constituting an alien invasion that attacks the foundations of your logic. But if you open up and submit to it, it rolls you. You go through a transformation and become someone else. When rock and roll became rock, music that only built on its own foundations, it lost that ability to come over as an alien, and thus its ability to roll. And with that, it lost the ecstatic, joyous sensation that accompanies the breakout of rock and roll. "I'll be a rock and rollin' bitch for you" announces that Bowie intends to bring that transformative power back, to rock and roll us once again. Within the framework of the album, Moonage Daydream is of course the moment when Ziggy arrives, to take us out of the slump presented in the first two tracks. In concerts, Bowie would sometimes present it as a song written by Ziggy. Ziggy, we see, is not necessarily an alien from outer space. He is rather someone who presents himself as an alien figure, larger than life, who the kids can identify with and be rock and rolled and reborn. And the terms bitch and mama papa also point to one of the traits that make Ziggy an alien, his androgyny. In the Victorian logic, that still dominated, you were either a man or a woman, and each gender had clearly defined characteristics. This logic repressed all those who felt that their sexuality was not that clear-cut, those who had characteristics that were attributed to the opposite sex. To recreate the rock and roll experience, Bowie created a character that breaks this oppression, presenting an identity that is sexually fluid, and providing these kids with something they can identify with. In Queen Bitch, the hero was afraid to give in and become part of that alternative sexual world. Through Ziggy, Bowie himself becomes the rock and rolling Queen Bitch, who draws the kids in.
Keep your mouth shut. Just walking like a big monkey bird. And I'm busting up a brain for the world.
In the first 4 lines, Bowie is trying to find words to express the essence of rock and roll. But like he already told us in Memory of a Free Festival, capturing the essence of ecstasy in words is an impossible thing to do, and these following lines seem to convey his frustration during the process. The pink monkey bird signifies something really loud and bothersome, and here it probably means the entire outside world. When you are trying to find words to express your innermost feelings, everything else becomes a distraction, and seems like a pink monkey bird. Bowie is trying to shut out the outside world, so he can reflect on these feelings.
Don't fake it, baby. Lay the real thing on me. The church of mad love is such a holy place to be. Make me, baby. Make me know you really care. Make me jump into the air.
The Church of God Love promised us that through God we will find love, but as we saw in Soul Love, it failed. Hence, Ziggy posits the Church of Man Love in its stead, claiming that we have the ability to generate love by ourselves, with no need for the mediation of God. When we are transformed through rock and roll, when our inside becomes outside, our masks fall, and we fuse together. All those who assume the identity of the alien now become as one, and feel the joy of love for one another. We are reminded once again of Memory of a Free Festival. There, Bowie assumed the role of a hippie who tries to convince us that his way of life brings ultimate love, which draws in even aliens from outer space who come to bask in it. But the truth seeps in through his words, and we realize that this love is feigned. Here, Bowie claims to find the way to true love by simply reversing the order. First the alien comes, liberating us from our alienated identities, and as a result, we can lay the real thing on each other and dwell in the church of man love.
Keep your electric on me, babe. Put your ring onto my head. Press your space stays close to my love. Freak out in a Moonage Daydream, oh yeah.
The chorus emphasizes the futuristic nature of the whole affair. To reach freedom, happiness, and love, you have to recreate yourself as something alien to everything that came before. But the title also hints that this perfect state is only temporary. Yet again we are reminded of Memory of a Free Festival, where we didn't reach the sun, the symbol of truth, but settled for a sun machine, a technological replacement. The fact that this is a Moonage Daydream hints that we do not reach daylight, but remain in the dark moon age. Nevertheless, we do create a temporary replacement of daylight, a daydream, and that is just as good. The secret of rock and roll has been deciphered. Bowie is going to transform himself into something otherworldly and offer it to the world. Once this resolution has been made, it can be codified into bolts of electric currents and sent into space, where it is transformed into waves of glistening supersonic sound and then zapped back towards Earth to hit the unsuspecting antennas of millions of aimless kids who have no idea what is about to crack open their sky and reach down to pull them up.